Welcome to Dreamers to Doers, a refresh podcast where faith meets action. I'm your host, Sarah Birkbeck, and I am really excited about this episode today, where we are going to get to hear the incredible stories of Taylor Quintini. If you've been to Refresh, any Refresh event, you know her, you love her, but we are going to get a little behind the scenes sneak peek into Taylor and her journey as she stepped out and started a business called Weddings Tailor Made. And so we're going to talk about a lot of different things today, but that is where we're kind of zeroing in on. And I'm really, really excited for you to get a little behind the scenes glimpse of what makes Taylor who she is. And so join me as we start the journey. Welcome to the Dreamers to Doers podcast, where I am so honored, privileged, and excited to be sitting next to my boo.
Oh, hello.
My
Hi,
bestie
boo.
for the resty, my ride or die. And also, because I like to start with a fun fact of kind of how we know each other. And some of the other interviews, it's like I, sort of know some of them.
Mm-hmm.
I know this girl. So this is going to be
Scary.
extra fun. Okay. Fun fact about TQ and I here. We actually were in Orlando recording this beautiful podcast studio, Hi Hello Labs.
Yes.
And we used to live here in
That's
Orlando.
Right. That's right.
We became the greatest of friends actually here. We'd gone to Bible school together, but this is really where I think our friendship took off.
Absolutely.
Because we rented a house. First of all, we were on the Dave Ramsey plan. If anybody knows Dave Ramsey, give a little shout out. Love that guy. We needed to get out of debt, both of us. And so none of us had kids. None of us had kids. We'd just gotten married and we were like, it is time to get out of debt. Dave told us. So guess what we did, guys? We rented this house together. The four of us, me, James, Jeremy, and Taylor Quintini. And we lived in this massive house to save money. And it was cheaper than living in an apartment.
Yes. It was right when the housing bubble burst here.
Yes.
So we each paid like $700, but we were living in 3,000 square feet. It's
with
kind of insane.
Yes. It was beautiful.
We didn't upkeep the pool because we didn't have money to. Yeah, we were trying to get out of debt.
It was green. I never swam in that pool.
Poison. But
we had family dinners every night. I did. I feel like I can cook a lot better now. Don't judge me because I would come home and I'd be so stressed. We'd get home from work and I would make instant mashed potatoes.
Yes, Lord.
It was my night to cook. They're probably like, oh, crap, it's Sarah's night to cook. Instant mashed potatoes. And don't be offended if you make instant mashed potatoes. Don't be ashamed.
No.
I thought they were good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do use roll potatoes now, though. That was awesome. So that is a fun fact. We go way back. There's so much I could say. There's a million stories I could share. And now we don't live in the same state.
No.
But we kind of stay connected through Marco Polo.
Yes.
Which this is.
Thank you, Marco.
I'm not being paid by Marco, but throw that out there. And we have 9 children between us at this point. Was not always the case, was not always like that. And so, Taylor, we had your formal bio in the beginning. We're going to go in on some awesome things I'm excited to talk about, specifically Weddings Tailor Made.
Okay.
And so I want to dive into some of these. things. So let's start with just you kind of sharing a little bit about that business specifically and your role.
What it is today?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, today, Weddings Tailor Made is a full-service wedding and event planning business. We have different packages we offer, different levels. So, like the big package is planning a whole wedding weekend, kind of designed and styled to what the client wants. We do a lot of destination weddings in New Orleans. It has always been top 3 for destination weddings in the U.S. So we deal with a lot of destination clients and just plan a whole fabulous weekend experience, very Southern, very New Orleans, for their guests that are coming from sometimes all over the world. And then we have smaller packages where it's like maybe the bride wants to plan. She has the ability and capacity to do that, but she needs help executing and she needs more event management services. So we'll step in and take over for her right at the end to relieve stress.
Love it.
One of our taglines is, we want you to be a guest at your very own wedding. And we really
Love
mean that. That's our
that.
heart behind it.
Weddings tailor-made.
Yes.
I mean, branding on point. It's beautiful. Okay. And Taylor, it's so crazy and funny. Obviously, as I know you, so multifaceted, and I know just so much about you outside of you as a businesswoman, and having 5 children.
Yes.
And walking through what you walked through to be at this place with your children, and actually multiple businesses and in ministry. Can you tell us a little bit about—
That's all, though.
And you're done. Let's just talk about kind of all of the transition from you working for a company in New Orleans and then transitioning into this. And at that time too, Jeremy was not a pastor.
Right.
And so talk to me about when all of that kind of changed, because Jeremy now is a pastor. So you're pastor's wife.
Yes.
Discipling incredible people there in Baton Rouge, doing amazing things. A part of Refresh, all of these things.
Yeah.
But before all of that, what was life like?
Back in the day.
Yes, back in the day.
Wild days.
Did you always know that this was how life was going to unfold for you?
No, absolutely not. This is one of those, you look back and you're like, wow, the Lord is wild.
Yeah.
And, there are bigger things than I could have even planned out, ordered, asked, or thought of to pray for. Definitely never saw where we are today, being in this exact place. So, to go way back for just a second, we went to Christ for the Nations in Dallas, and that was actually, they hired me. That was my first job. I made a whopping $8 an hour to have a mesh of 3 full-time positions, which it was like coordinating their women's conference, doing hospitality for their guest speakers. I had 0 experience. All I had ever done was be a nanny and a college student. That was it. And so real quick, I feel like I got thrown into the deep end.
Yeah.
And that $8 an hour job was so valuable in the end, because I learned so much. It showed me giftings and capabilities I didn't know I had. It stretched me in so many areas. And honestly, I was like tried by fire in a way. So I was finishing up college in Dallas. I knew Jeremy and I would get married at that point, but we weren't married yet. And I wanted to go back home to New Orleans, spend some time with my mom, because I felt like with him, we could end up anywhere. I don't know what's going to happen. So I went to do that. And I was thinking, I need a job. What am I going to do? And so I knew my passion in my heart was ministry. I knew my church was not going to be able to hire me. And I was like, I've done some event planning. I feel like I'd be interested in doing weddings. That seems really intriguing. So I'm on the internet. And this is back in the day. It's not like the wedding market is now, right?
Yeah.
There was one.
There's no Instagram.
Oh, no. No, ma'am.
Or
no.
Pinterest.
People barely have websites at this point, But there's real Stone Age stuff. Yeah. Exactly. Dial up. But there's maybe 2 women professionally that did wedding planning in New Orleans. Wow. It is not what it is now, And I remember calling one of them who I still know today. And I'm like, hi, wondering if you're hiring. And she's like, honey, it's just me. Sweetheart, pat me on the head. No, I'm not hiring.
Right.
But this was actually a year after Katrina had hit New Orleans. And so what happened is the job market had drastically changed. People had moved away. Hotels had been closed a really long time. And it was right at the rebirth. A year later, things are starting to reopen. And so there were hotels and places doing catering sales that were hiring for positions people had been in 20 years that I frankly would have never seemed to get in before. Yeah. So I got hired, and 3 months later, I got a management offer and I moved. And so I was doing catering sales specifically for the wedding market. So I was learning all about weddings from that catering and food and beverage angle, and had a lot of experience. The job changed and changed and changed. Ownership changed. And then actually Jeremy and I got the offer to move to Orlando, and I went in to quit. And he was like, well, don't quit. Let's just see if we can make this work.
Yes.
Wild stuff.
And you did.
I did. And it's one of those, it was the favor of the Lord, Sarah.
Yeah.
You can't make it up. You couldn't ask for it. You can't think it up. So we moved to Orlando here where we were together, and I worked remotely for this company in New Orleans. And then I flew in 1 week out of the month and got to stay with my sweet mama.
And okay, so we're here in Orlando. Jeremy's working for a ministry.
Yes.
You're working for this company
Yes.
now. Did you always know I'm going to start my own thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know personally, it's hard because I know your story. So I'm like, which parts
Tell my
does
secret.
not everybody else doesn't know you? Like I know you.
Right.
So you felt a call to ministry when you were at CFNI.
Oh, yeah.
So you're now working for this company. Did you always feel like you knew you were going to start a business? Did you always know that was in your heart? Or were you like, hey, I think I'm going to go into ministry?
Right. Yeah. So that all, that was a long journey with the Lord of kind of working all that out in my head because my heart always bled ministry. That was why I went to CFNI.
Yeah.
I passed up, college scholarships that were the obvious choice. And I was like, man, I want to serve the Lord. Like I will forsake all of this in a second to just do whatever it is he's called me to do.
Yeah.
And so some of that maturing process for me and working it out, I didn't necessarily always dream of being a business owner. I think maybe I dreamed of being a boss.
Yeah.
Just being able to
you are.
be creative, do my own thing, whatever that looked like kind of thing. I never wanted the thought of like sitting behind a desk all day, in like a 9-to-5, like that seemed like a prison to me. Like I needed to be able to.
Well, and you told me like you didn't have kids at this point, but fast forward to now you are having children.
Right.
And I feel like that was a part of this equation
for
too.
For sure.
You wanted to be with your children.
Yes, 100%.
And you guys, it did take a long time to start having children. You went through a really hard journey of infertility and I'll never forget because we were very close. We always talked about having kids together and that would be so fun if we could be pregnant together. And we just like longed for that as friends.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget when I was calling to tell her not only had we had Asher and walked through that as she's walking through years of trying to get pregnant and going through things. And I'm now calling to tell her for the second time that I'm pregnant again.
Yeah.
And that's when you shared, me too.
Yes. It was like such a redeeming moment for me because I had actually had a miscarriage while you were pregnant with Asher. And we had always talked about being pregnant together. And I was like, we are pregnant together. Oh my gosh, you were way ahead of me in pregnancy. But I had had a miscarriage. Yeah. And you were calling to tell me you were pregnant again. And I was pregnant.
Yeah.
But I hadn't told anybody yet because I was so like nervous. Yeah. I was trying to like let some time pass. But anyway, the Lord did redeem it. Yeah. And those babies are 3 days apart. So we were really pregnant together.
We did it. It was not in our timing, but
no, it was awesome.
So so going back to your decision then to start Weddings Tailor Made and move into that space.
Around that time, the Lord, we can get back to this, but the Lord showed me so much about, hey, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you are ministering. Yeah. Whether you have a 501c3 behind your name, whether you've started a nonprofit or not, like the Lord has called you, anyone, put in your name there to minister.
Yes.
Right?
Amen. Yeah.
And so if you're in Target running errands, like you're on mission. If you're with your children at home, you are on mission, like whatever you're doing. And so that's a maturing process to like really own that, I think, and have identity in that and feel purpose behind it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm not wasting my life away because I haven't started a ministry or I'm not employed by a ministry, So the Lord was very sweet with me.
Which I think that's a big shift.
Oh, yeah.
For coming out of Bible school and knowing you were called into ministry.
Yes.
And even Jeremy working at a ministry and then moving to pastor.
Yeah.
And your heart always being tugged in that direction. And I know, and all of the Refresh women who have been at the events know the incredible gift on your life to speak and teach. And so that had to be a wrestle, but to come to that conclusion as you work through it is so powerful.
Well, I don't want to make it light because that revelation took like years. I feel like a very slow refining because, we have our thoughts, and it's the Lord coming in and like renewing our mind and showing us how to renew our mind, showing us how to think rightly according to his word, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like the slow burn.
Yeah.
It's the slow burn.
Yeah.
There was no quick fix there.
Yeah.
But yes, I did have a burning desire in my heart to essentially work for myself, be able to make an income for my family, which was needed. But like you said, more importantly than anything, raise my own children.
Yeah.
And as I had children, that just became like more and more the chief desire.
Yeah.
I was like, the Lord is giving them to me. I want to be the primary one to disciple them, raise them, teach them, especially in these young years.
Yeah.
You know, they fly by. Everyone tells you that. You don't realize it till you're in it.
Okay. And tell me, how old are your kids? Go through that list.
Now we're at 10, 8, 7, 5, 2.
Dang, girl.
Wild.
Wild.
Catch me in a month. It'll be different numbers.
Wild.
It's so wild. And so, like you said, we could not have any children.
Yeah.
And then we went into this phase of just having children.
But Taylor, what's so incredible is we're talking about one facet, Weddings Tailor Made, and we're kind of throwing all these other things into.
Yeah.
But and it's because of who God created you to be, which is this really incredible, multifaceted woman with a high capacity. And that's who God created you to be. And it's beautiful. And so starting this company, which we're not going into today, a second company that you started out of that, plus being a part of Refresh, writing Dream Lab course with me, pastoring alongside Jeremy, mentoring, speaking. I know you want to write a book, all of these things, like, and we're like not sharing them to like unload all of this, but I think there's part of that is understanding, like, that is so beautiful how God created you, and maybe not everyone,
right?
But and so seeing you, it's like, I know even for myself, I'm like, man, how is she doing it all? It's so, she just handles it with such grace, and she can mother so well and do all these things. But I also know kind of behind the scenes of some of the things that you've come up against as you are now a business owner. You're leading a team. You are ministering. You are a part of Refresh. You are. So talk to me about some of the challenges, like kind of as you started with this organization and these kind of facets.
You know, and just to touch on what you were saying for a second, you know, one of my pet peeves is I feel like we ingrain in our children, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we're waiting for this one word answer.
Yeah.
I want to be this one thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like the Lord, it calls us to different seasons in our life.
Yeah.
We should never teach our children or even our friends and our peers and how we're talking to them, like, you got to figure out that one thing you want to be and then go do it.
Yeah.
Because God will push you in places. He'll pull you from places. And even when I had the dream to start Weddings Tailor Made, I was just, you know, there's a beautiful quote by Elizabeth Elliot, and it's like, I will hold it loosely in my hand. So if that the Lord plucks it, it doesn't hurt so badly. Like basically he doesn't have to pry it from my dead grip, you know? And so that was the premise really with starting it, is like, God, I'm going to do this, but it's yours.
Yeah.
It's open-ended. My identity isn't there.
Yeah.
It's a part of what I do.
Yeah.
But if the Lord tells me tomorrow to stop, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because my identity's in him. And that just means he has a different direction to send me, you know? So I'm so sorry. I don't even remember your question. That was like a rabbit trail. I'm so sorry.
Mic drop. Because I think that's...
the challenges.
That's so powerful, though, for people to hear.
Yeah.
And to understand.
There's freedom in that.
Because I think we can get stuck.
Absolutely.
Even in our adult, not even as a kid, but in our adult years of, I don't know what God's calling me to, and what is the one thing he's asking, what is this one dream?
Yeah.
And I think seeing how you have handled these different things, it is because you've been able to hold them loosely and say, Lord, where do you want me to steward my time with what next?
Yes.
And so you've done that really well. And so I think that's great for everyone to hear and understand. So right now where you are today, what are some of the challenges that you're facing as, okay, you started Weddings Tailor Made. You started this other business that we're not even referencing today or not even getting into.
Yeah.
You are in ministry with Jeremy, a part of the Refresh team. in the process of working on your own content, different things like this, what are your challenges today?
Oh, there's a few.
Okay, boo-boos. I might know from Marco Polo.
Oh, my goodness. Well, to be real, like you said, and someone spoke that word over me a long time ago, high capacity. And it's like, oh, I'm high capacity. Yeah. Yay. Like when you're 20.
It like a badge.
Yeah. It's like awesome. It's like, this is who I am.
Right.
But man, has there been a humbling, because as I have grown, as these kids are getting older, as the demands are changing, I have definitely been on my knees, on the floor. God, I cannot do this. I cannot do one more thing. Yeah. And by one more thing, I don't mean taking on a new project. I mean getting up to deal with these children today or dealing with these business problems or, whatever, doing my taxes, like whatever the practicality of the day looks like. And God giving me that all-sufficient grace for today, not for tomorrow. We even talk a little bit in Dream Lab how you may have all these things in like your Mary Poppins bag that you're carrying around and juggling. However, it's not that God is asking you to give 100% to every single thing. And if you give 95%, you're a bad girl. Yeah. The bottom's going to fall out. Right. You're going to drop it all while you're juggling, And these are just like stress and pressures that are lies from the enemy.
Yeah.
And so I've had to even be okay with like, you know what? This part of my life doesn't get 100% today. Yeah. And that may look like I'm not cooking.
Yeah.
I'm passing by Costco and we're throwing a meatloaf in the oven, guys.
Yeah.
That's going to be done. Yeah. It's fine. It's wonderful.
Cooking to me.
Yes. Meatloaf's very good. Okay.
That's like my cooking.
No, but you know what I'm saying?
Yes. No, that's practical.
Order pizza. Like we're picking up takeout on the way. Whatever it is, I can't be expected in one day to run a business, homeschool my children, which I do not, by the way, minister to 35 people, and be Joanna Gaines in the kitchen at dinner. Sorry, guys.
But I think this is so great for people to see because there are multifaceted, high capacity people listening.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost like we can look at each other, especially on Instagram or on this podcast or when the Refresh Women see you on stage preaching up fire. It's like so easy to be like, she's got this all together. Yeah. She can do all of it and she's running a business and she's able, but the reality is we're all just stewarding. We're all just walking through. We've all got our own challenges and we're just all walking this out in different ways, but we're all different. And so I think it's really incredible for those that are also in that high capacity space.
Yeah.
They're wearing that badge they can hear.
Yeah.
It's also okay that, one, it's okay that that's how God's created you.
Right.
And two, don't be hard on yourself.
Right.
When you go to bed at night.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you've got 5 things on your plate. Yeah.
So that was something in the middle of kind of burning out with all the things. I felt the Lord really speak to me is that, hustle culture is not kingdom culture. We live in an upside down kingdom.
Yeah.
And so in the world of wedding planning, for instance, Instagram, Pinterest, social media, I mean, you're surrounded by hustlers, and there's a lot of people in that industry that, their peers in the industry, let's say, those are their friends and relationships. Everything is about the next networking event. You're invited to 37 open houses in a week to go see all these fun spaces, go to bougie lunches, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I had to be okay with a long time ago, like being able to say no, honestly, and having to ask myself on certain things, hey, if I miss this networking event, is it going to break my business? No. Because God's not going to let it, frankly. You know what I mean? So all these pressures that society will put on you, like you can't miss out. You got to do this. You got to stay up late and grind out all those emails, which I've done. You got to get all this done. Hustle, 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 or you're never going to make it, sis. God will come in and call you to rest.
Yeah.
And that has like been a huge challenge for me actually is to rest.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm preaching to myself because it's very hard for me to do that.
But I think that's such a testimony hearing you say that because what I know from your Weddings Tailor Made, I mean, you guys just made this incredible what's it called? This magazine, the Scout Guide.
Scout Guide, Baton Rouge.
What's that called? Like a I don't know.
Publication. Yes.
It's amazing. And, you know, you guys are running, or you are running a very successful wedding planning business. And I don't know if you always identify with that, but along the way you have said no to so much, and you have been willing to just keep it in its place because you have other things you're also stewarding, but you're also crushing it in that space.
Oh, it's one thing to be in the Scout Guide and you're like, bougie, beautiful photo is displayed in this beautiful magazine where you look so done up, and then that can go on social media, right? But then you're home in sweatpants with 5 children, trying to make it to nap time, you know, and not lose your mind. And so sometimes you feel like an imposter, you know, like, oh gosh, I'm not the real deal. Like, I'm not crushing it. I'm not, you know, but man, is that such like a lie from the enemy, because you can do the things well, you know, and some days aren't going to always look like this big, beautiful outward Instagram highlight reel, right? Like that's not life. And the most beautiful thing in ministry is when you can be authentic about that and not act like that person that sometimes is out there in that way, that there isn't also this other side that is really normal, casual, at home in the trenches. Just trying to love the Lord and her family.
And I think when we're in the trenches, and this, you know, speaking specifically to moms with young kids, I think this goes out. A lot of people are in the trenches with other things, but I think that's a real trench right there, sisters. And I think it's so easy. We say this all the time, like, oh, we know Instagram is just the highlight reel. We know when you look at someone, there's so much more to the story. We know that in our mind, but I think when we take all this in our hearts, sometimes it's hard for us to realize that it's okay. Like it's okay to be in the trenches in that season. And you're going to have your mountaintop moments too. And so it's a good reminder.
The most authentic form of discipleship is to yourself be authentic. You know, it would be unfair for me to just like preach from a platform and give a certain appearance. And then for the mom struggling at home with 3 under 3 who feels like she's losing her mind, to just feel like, oh gosh, I'll never be like Taylor. So it's really important to me that those, you know, around me in my circle, I do have the privilege of, you know, I'll say very humbly, to maybe influence or speak into the lives of now 20-something-year-olds, you know, who I knew when they were seniors in high school and young newlyweds, and kind of see them through these different phases. But now seeing them in the young motherhood stage, being authentic with them, like being honest about, this is what I'm struggling with. Oh, you're going through that? I absolutely remember going through that. You're not crazy, sister. But let me point you to Jesus in this. Like, I'm not going to point you to self-help. I'm not going to tell you to go get a spot and it's going to fix it. It might help it for a moment. But really, Jesus is what's going to help you through it.
That's what I love about this podcast, because I feel like that's the heart of what we're doing, especially with these interviews in this first season, is because a lot of who I'm bringing on from a distance, when we don't know you intimately and personally, it just is like, oh, she's doing it all and she's mothering in. So I love that we're getting this behind the scenes, like the raw stuff, because this is where it's at, which is why we say this all the time at Refresh from the stage. You're going to hear a great word from the stage, but where the ministry is going to happen is in a vulnerable, intimate, around the table, which is why we always set it up to where you've got a table group, because that's where you can actually unpack the realness of who you are. That's where the true deep ministry is going to happen, we believe. So
that's right.
So powerful. What would I'm taking us on a left turn. I don't know if I've prepared you for this statement, but Taylor, right now, what would you tell the Taylor who was moving into a space where you are now starting Weddings Tailor Made, kind of moving into this new season that you're in now with the businesses, ministry life, and your children. Like you went, I mean, that's 2 very different seasons for you.
For sure.
So what would Taylor today?
Guys, I really crushed it when I didn't have kids. You know what I'm saying? I just got so much done.
Girl, you'd be like, wait a little longer. I'm just kidding. No, you wouldn't. That's awful.
No, I love my babies. It's just, it is funny, the shift, right? It's just because your time and your attention must go to something that is incredibly more important than you, right?
Yeah.
Like investing in these children is actually more important than any personal dream or endeavor I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I know that to be true, but it takes time. Time. That's the thing. It takes time. What I would tell younger Taylor is, gosh, do not sweat the small stuff so much. Like, stop overthinking everything.
Yeah.
I'll also tell current Taylor
I was going to say, can
okay?
you tell current Sarah that?
Current Taylor needs to hear that too. But that is for sure probably one of my biggest struggles is just, I want so badly, Sarah, to get it right.
I know.
I don't want to meet Jesus and not hear like, well done,
I know.
And I don't think I will. But you go down a train, and that's why I think people overthink.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I know.
Is when you fear the Lord and you really want to serve him, want to honor him.
Yeah.
This is too much crying for a podcast.
No.
Okay.
I cried when they asked me this question, so just know.
So I know that's where the overthinking comes from. But what we do when we overthink is we forget how already loved and secure we are, how pleased he already is, that your heart is tender enough to just want to love him and serve him.
Yeah.
And so I gave too much mental space to things that were ridiculous when it was just like, Taylor, you're already doing the thing.
Yeah.
You're good. You're already in. You're so busy praying for God's will.
Yeah.
You're already in my will.
Come on.
In every season, because I do believe that if I would have ever done something and crossed the line that was out of his will, he would have just redirected me and corrected me.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay for something to be a failure. You just bounce back up.
Yeah.
And you let the Lord lift you up, really, and redirect you in it,
I just think all of that is so real and just hits me because coming from you, a fellow overthinker, it's just it's so real and so powerful. And I think too, sometimes outside of and Lisa said this, I think she's written it in a book or something, but Lisa Bevere talks about, I think it's a lot of our generation that really longs to hit the mark perfectly.
Yeah.
And so then we never launch.
Yeah.
And she's like, but our God is so kind.
That's right.
The target is so big, you can't miss.
Yeah. Right.
And I think what you said about the redirecting, like, even if.
That's right.
Like what we would deem as this massive failure. I know for James and I mean, some of the hardest years of our lives, I think just because we're getting old, like we had to walk through some hard years. I mean, you just are going to. This is the invitation that God gives us. But some of the hardest years of our lives was walking through regret.
Right.
Of feeling like we missed God.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and we couldn't get over it. Because we thought we missed it. We know we did.
That's right.
We know we didn't go to him. Like we didn't hear him. And then we just kicked ourselves because we were so desperate to do the right thing all the time.
Right.
But yet in that season, over those years, and then I'm like, well, we've also just missed those promises.
Right.
That were attached to what, I thought we were walking into this season because I heard God share that this is where we were going, but we made this misstep. And so now we're over here and we're never going to get there.
And you think you deserve to be punished.
100%.
That's what you tell yourself. Yeah.
Shame will cap that 100%. And I've seen over the years that it wasn't the way I would have loved it to roll out.
Right.
But we just went, it was like we kind of went the long way around a little bit.
Yes. Children of Israel.
Oh, Jesus, help us. That was not fun.
No, it's not.
It was not a fun journey.
A launching learning pad
going
forward.
Totally.
Where you like have heels in the ground like, well, I'm going to pray about this for you.
Oh, we're pray about that
just
next
whatever
time.
it is.
Yes. Yes.
Whatever it is. But just like I said, hustle culture is not kingdom culture. Neither is perfectionism.
Yeah.
Like
Come on,
nowhere in
girl.
the Bible does
Come
Jesus
on.
say, hey, go clean yourself up and then come
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
He says, come to me as dirty and sinful and unlovely and unworthy as you are.
Yeah.
And I will make you whole.
Yes.
Like I will fix it.
Yeah.
He is not looking for you to clean yourself up to then be worthy to come.
Yeah.
He just says, come.
And I feel like the enemy will put you in a dryer of shame.
That's right.
And just turn you around and around on whatever it is.
That's
and
right.
it might not even be shame on these big sinful. I mean, he will use anything.
Yes. Oh yeah.
To cap you and keep
we're not
you.
talking about grave sin here.
Yeah.
We're talking about just the little thoughts and the little things, in our lives.
Yes.
But he will.
So let's kind of close out with this. And you were going there a little bit, but I want you to talk to the listener right now who is stuck.
Okay.
And they have some things in their heart, and maybe it's perfectionism that they're waiting to get it right, or they're waiting to get themselves perfectly
together.
Right.
Yeah.
To launch for that target. They don't want to miss him.
Yeah.
They want to know exactly what he's called them to do. It's like, what is this one thing, God? That person who's identifying with all of those things, what would you say to them?
The immediate first thing that pops into my mind is it's just not about you.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We get these dreams and they're our dreams. God gives them to us, right? And then so we take ownership of like, well, it is about me. It's like you put yourself in it. But when you shift your mindset to this is actually not about mine, even though I do own this business, I don't own it in the sense of I identify God as the owner.
Yeah.
I'm the steward.
Yeah.
So I am going to steward this thing he has given me. It all really starts with your mindset, And so if you feel stuck and you feel paralyzed, God, I need to get my whole life together. I need to be more perfect at this. I would just ask if you would pray and trust the Lord of God, help me take that first step. Even in my inadequacy, maybe you feel like you need more schooling, more education, you've got to get more experience under your belt. I mean, I can tell you the day I started Weddings Tailor Made, I had a lot of experience in the industry, but I never had what it was to be a full-time business owner,
do those taxes,
producing events. Exactly. Just all on my own.
Yeah.
And then you move from one stuck place to the next, really. Then I was stuck with, oh gosh, I have 5 kids. I can't be doing all these weddings. Like, what am I doing? And again, not about me. Like I said, the Lord was so gracious to bring other people into the mix and into the company that God had wired similarly, that God had given similar desires and giftings to and all this kind of stuff. But if I hold it and make it all about me, right, and don't let those people in, just stuck again. And so sometimes it is even, what is your dream? But how are other people meant to be involved that God has strategically and specifically and intricately placed in your life and in your path?
Yeah, that is so good. And I feel like that's been a thread throughout.
Sure.
Is like when people are stepping out.
Yeah.
There's people around.
That's right.
That we all need.
That's right.
And that's okay to pull on them.
That's right.
And so I love that you shared that. Okay. Closing little moment here. We've done this, I think, with all of them. Okay. And we want to know, how does Taylor Quintini get her brave on? Here's the disclaimer, Taylor. We all know how you get your brave on, and it's in the Word.
Yes.
It's when you pray, and it is when you are worshiping Jesus. Like, so what we want to really know is how Taylor Quintini, number 4, gets her brave on. What is the next thing on the list? It can be anything.
Anything.
It can be chocolate ice cream, Taylor. I mean.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Whatever it is, go.
I mean, I don't know. This sounds really, I don't know. But like, I do a whole lot very afraid.
Yeah.
I do. I do a whole lot feeling
I love it.
Ill-equipped, inadequate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to vomit. I think I told you.
Yeah.
Well, I did tell you because we were roomies. Praise the Lord. But before the last refresh,
Yeah.
it had been a hot minute since I had spoken and shared the word. And I had really labored over that message for months.
Yeah.
I mean, this refresh, if you've never been, please join us in Jesus'
Shameless
name.
plug.
It's wonderful.
24, be there.
But, these are women sharing that they're not throwing some message together in 5 minutes. They're not.
Yeah.
They're like laboring to hear from the Lord over a word. What is God speaking?
Yeah.
And it's coming from such an authentic place. And so I remember I really did prepare for months. And I don't mean every single day for 20 hours a day.
You have 5 kids.
Yeah, no,
and 2
that's not what it is.
And you're a minister.
But you carry these things. And you're in the shower,
I get it, girl.
thinking about that message. But then you get out of the shower and you forget what you thought. And it's a whole thing. But anyway, you just carry it for a long time.
Yes.
And I remember arriving in Dallas, we're in our hotel. It's approaching my time to speak. Like, I'm so excited. It's literally such a joy. It's such an honor every time, right? But having that pit in my stomach, that just totally nauseating, you didn't prepare enough. Who do you think you are doing this?
Yeah.
And to the second, like, I'm like,
I know it's so
you're getting up to introduce me, I'm pretty sure. And I'm like, I'm going to go to the bathroom one more time. I'll be back in time. Don't worry, guys. I'm going to make it.
Everything's
This
fine.
is a true story. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I went to the bathroom this time. I'm talking about last year. I could not get my zipper back up on my pants.
Back
up. I peed.
No, stop.
I'm about to get on stage and I'm like, Jesus, take the wheel. Fix the zipper, Lord.
Do it now.
I thought it was like really broken, but some thread from the jean got stuck in there.
Oh my gosh, Taylor.
If anyone's in the bathroom, I apologize.
tell
I was
me.
probably doing cartwheels trying to get it up. Anyway, it got up. Praise the Lord. But it's that up to the moment. And you know what happened? I took that mic.
Yeah.
It all left me in an instant.
Oh my goodness.
And that's not an exaggeration.
No, I know.
It's not
Because
an
I know
exaggeration.
you. Yeah.
And your brain will tell you you're psycho for it.
Yeah.
Your brain will tell you.
It
And you
will.
know.
I know this
You
all
know,
so well.
my boo.
Yeah.
Your brain will tell you you're psycho.
Yeah.
Because 10 seconds before
You can't
you
get
were
your
going to
zipper
vomit,
up. Mhm.
you put in your resignation and said,
quit.
this is it. This is a sure sign. I'll never do it again. And then you take that mic, which was for me. It could be something totally different for everyone listening, which is wonderful.
Right.
But you do the thing that God has asked you to do.
That is
in
a
that moment.
word.
And it flees you. And you just feel
That is a
His
word.
grace out of pure
Yeah.
obedience and willingness.
Yeah.
Because you were willing to do it afraid.
Yes.
You were willing to do it in your lack, in your inadequacies, in your nerves, all the things. You just did it. And I do. I felt the presence of the Lord upon me. It was just the grace of God to do it.
Yeah.
And I told the Lord before, I said, God, if you never want me to do this again, I never will. Like,
Yeah.
I will, as much as I love this, I do, I just love it. I will lay it down. I will never do it again.
Yeah.
And I had that image of Moses taking the staff, you know, and what happened when he extended the staff to cross the Red Sea. It's like, can you imagine the seas in front of him, the armies behind him, the nerves, the pit in the stomach. There's no hope. There's no
And you
way
want me
out.
to raise this stick
That's right.
above the water?
That's right. And just taking the thing and do the thing. So whatever it is for you,
Action.
take it
is
and do
required.
it
Yeah.
in those icky feelings and just see, use it as a test to see if God gives you the grace
Come
for
on,
it.
sis. You're going to get
And
your
you'll know.
brave on.
You'll know. Yeah,
Taylor,
you'll
that
know.
is a word. You just
Yeah.
sealed that bag. And if you haven't been to if you've been to Refresh, you know exactly what she's talking about. And you're like probably listening to this thinking, I would have never guessed, because when you do take the mic every time, it's like there is such an anointing on your life. I know it's not all you,
Wow.
but you are willing to
Jesus.
get yourself up there after you got your pants up
Yeah.
and
Literally.
take the mic despite the stress and the fear and the
Yeah.
anxiety. I know that pain.
Yeah.
And do it afraid. And then, man, it is like you are so met with the presence of the Lord, because those that come, you know, Teeny Quintini, Tiki from the Bayou, she brings the fire at Refresh. And if you haven't been yet,
Well,
you are missing out.
you
Let
are
me
sweet,
tell
my
you.
sister. It is a joy and an
So,
honor.
I have loved every single itty bitty second of this interview. I also get the privilege of talking to you every day for the rest of our lives. So, but we'll have to do this again because I think it was so fun for people to get to see behind the scenes of who Taylor Quintini is. And so thank you for sharing vulnerably.
Thank you.
Thank you for just
And can I
here.
just say, you are one that does it brave and does it afraid sometimes.
Thank you. Yeah.
And when you have a friend like that,
afraid. Yeah.
well, when you have a friend like that, it fuels you.
Yeah.
It inspires you.
It's
true.
True.
It gives your sisters courage. So
Find
thank you.
People.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before we close out today, Taylor, where can everyone find you?
Oh gosh. Well, my Instagram is Taylor Quintini. That's the handle. So that's probably the easiest place. Just my name, Taylor Quintini. Good luck spelling that though. Yeah. I know it's hard. And we have Weddings Tailor Made is our wedding business handle as well.
Okay. Well, I've loved every second and we cannot wait for the next time. So we'll see y'all soon.